question that has plagued the human race for millennia. What happens to us after we die? There's evidence that even the earliest known humans believed in an afterlife, and the idea still persists today around the world. No matter where in the world you were raised, at some point in time you've wondered yourself. People have been searching for the answer to this question forever. It is the foundation of religion. It is the pursuit of many scientific research expeditions. Stay tuned to the end of this video to hear groundbreaking scientific testimony about whether or not there is an afterlife. Before we start to delve into the secrets of life, the universe, and everything, subscribe to The Richest. Hit that notification bell too. If you want to be the first to know whenever we post, make sure to like this video. Now, is the afterlife real? Let's find out. Start off with religion. Different religions around the world have different ideas about the afterlife, and some of them don't believe in an afterlife at all. Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, and Sikhism all believe that humans are reincarnated as a bird, a cow, or another human. They believe what you do in this life affects what you come back as in your next. Whether or not this counts as an afterlife or just another life is up to you to interpret. But the question I'm more concerned about is, what do I have to do right to come back as an eagle, please? Some cultures believe that drugs such as ayahuasca or LSD give us a glimpse into the afterlife. An ayahuasca high reportedly allows you a 10 to 12 hour journey through the afterlife, and people who have experienced this phenomena refer to the experience as being peaceful and tranquil. Others say that DMT gives you an immediate 20 to 30 minute look at the afterlife. If true, that means every time you take one of these drugs, your mind is technically dying. I've seen Flatliners, so I'm hoping that movie's depiction of reportedly dying and coming back isn't what really happens. Most people who experience the afterlife this way say that they are a lot more comfortable with the idea of dying, and that taking the drugs is a great way to prepare for what comes next. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking I might have to get some first-hand experience before I make up my mind about this one. The Abrahamic religions, such as Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, believe in an afterlife that we refer to as heaven or hell. If you're a good person in this life, your soul gets to go to a magical, wonderful place when you die filled with love and pleasure. If you're a bad person or do horrible things, your soul goes to a place of fire and torture for all eternity. What constitutes good and bad varies amongst the religions, but the behavior is dictated in strict terms in the holy books of each respective one. Mainly, bad things include killing people, having sex before marriage, wearing two different types of fabrics, doing drugs, sorry to the ayahuasca crowd, and in some congregations, being gay. Also, according to Orthodox Islam, women do not have souls, and therefore do not experience the afterlife at all. Sorry for all you well-behaved women out there, but it's good news for the rest of you. Ancient religions, such as the Romans, Egyptians, and Greeks, believed in an afterlife similar to the Abrahamic religions, but instead of two separate places called heaven and hell, there was one place called the underworld, where a person's spirit would go after death. Throughout myth, there were tales of living people who journeyed to the underworld to bring back dead loved ones, or rescue the spirits of people who were taken there too soon. The view here is that death is not necessarily permanent, and is subject to the whims of the gods. I know if I ended up in the underworld too soon, I'd organize a team of 8 smart, sexy celebrities and we'd break out of there in no time. Now that we've talked about how religions feel about the existence of an afterlife, let's move on to science. According to a Pew Research study, just 51% of scientists, or a little over half, believe in some sort of deity or a higher power. That's incredibly low compared to your average American citizen, where that number is up at 95% of people who believe. 41% of scientists say they do not believe in any sort of higher power at all, effectively atheists. So why is there such a large discrepancy? What does science tell us about the existence of an afterlife? The view here is that nothing happens after we die. We are only conscious because we are alive, and the electrical signals in our brain that keep our body functioning also provide that consciousness. Once that electrical signal is out, or the body ceases to function, we cease to exist. From there, our body decomposes and becomes a part of the earth, which feeds other living creatures in a cycle called the circle of life. Shout out to Elton John. All life eventually dies, and that death feeds life. This, of course, leads to a whole slew of other questions, like, if there is no afterlife, why do so many people believe there is? There are many theories about this too, but the main logic comes down to evolution. It's a two-pronged argument about two separate evolved characteristics that allowed for human survival. The first characteristic is the belief in a higher power itself. Humans, very early on, came up with answers to the big questions of life and death by explaining away everything they didn't understand as an act of a higher power. The Romans, Greeks, and Egyptians believed there was a god that reigned over everything, from the sun to the moon to the oceans to the ground itself. Zeus, for example, was in control of lightning. A thunderstorm meant that Zeus was angry, or playful, depending on the interpretation. These beliefs allowed humans peace of mind, as they felt their lives and fates were being taken care of. Except, we don't think lightning is caused by Zeus anymore. We know it's an electrostatic discharge caused between differently charged regions of clouds. You know that zap you feel in cold weather when you touch your car door or someone wearing fleece? It's like that, only much, much bigger. The second part of the argument is that the simple act of obedience became essential to the survival of the human race. Children who didn't listen might stray too far and get eaten or fall off a cliff, and the gene for disobedience was selected out of the population. Children who obeyed their parents and everything they were taught about religion and the afterlife would survive and pass those beliefs on to the next generation. Every scientific breakthrough in history has been challenged and punished by religion, from the revelation that the Earth is round to the fact that it is not the center of the universe. Once the idea of evolution came around in the 1800s, religion once again fought hard to stifle the idea until it became more widespread. The director of critical care and resuscitation research at NYU Langone School of Medicine in New York City, world-renowned Dr. Sam Parnia, has stated that dying is very comfortable. Through his research, he also says that people who have experienced near-death or afterlife encounters explain it differently, sometimes having meetings with dead relatives, and other times seeing a white light and a figure telling them to return to their bodies. It is important to note that Sam Parnia does not take this as evidence for the existence of an afterlife, stating that death is not a black and white moment, where one second you're alive and the next second you're dead, and that death itself is a long process with many factors and influences. He says, the final result is we have a deduction of oxygen that gets inside the brain when we are about to die, and that causes our brain circuits to shut down and we become unconscious to the outside world. He also described this process as peaceful and pleasant. The afterlife is such a big unknown in conventional wisdom that even scientists disagree about what happens after we die. In the multiverse theory, which stems from string theory, there are an infinite number of realities, all of which stem from moments of choice. There's an entire universe, exactly like ours, where you forgot to brush your teeth this morning. Did you shower or not? 2 more universes. And then another infinite universes spring forth from how long that shower took. It's a lot to process, knowing that if this theory is true, there are an infinite number of universes where I'm not even alive, and also an infinite number of universes where I was the manager of a now defunct Toys R Us. In multiverse theory, there are a few ideas as to what happens when we die. One theory states that your consciousness and energy is redirected to an alternate universe where you didn't die, and you continue living in that reality with no memories of your alternate life. This idea stems from the scientific concepts of the conservation of matter and the conservation of energy, where neither matter nor energy can be created or destroyed. They merely change forms. If this is true, there are an infinite number of yous inside of yourself right now. Another theory is the same as most scientists believe, that nothing happens after we die, except that in every conceivable universe, our bodies eventually break down and become food for other plant and animal life. Some scientists believe that none of what we perceive is actually reality, but instead that we're all living inside a computer simulation. This theory states that if we are one day capable of creating technology in virtual worlds that are indistinguishable from our own real world, that we would then be able to create an infinite number of those simulations. We would run millions or billions or more all at the same time. And if there are trillions of simulations and only one real world, what are the odds that we're living in the one real one? Well, 1 out of infinity, or as close to 0 as you can possibly get. The scariest aspect of this theory is that no one in your life actually exists. It's like the Truman Show, where everyone is being controlled or written by someone else. Do you actually have free will? If someone is playing this simulation like a game, what happens to you when they pause the game? Do you pause? Are you transported into cyberspace until the game starts back up again? The ramifications of this theory go so deep that you can fall down endless internet rabbit holes trying to research it, as I did while writing this video. So what happens when we die in simulation theory? The simulation ends, and real life continues on. At the end of the day, everyone agrees on one thing. We don't know if there's an afterlife. Take the brightest scientific minds we have and ask them, are you sure there's no afterlife? And they'll all pretty much say the same thing. We can't be sure. We have no documented evidence of an afterlife, but the fact that billions of people around the world all believe that death is not the end gives us pause. There are still a lot of mysteries about life and the universe that we don't have answers for, but science progresses forward every day. Hopefully one day we'll know the answer to the oldest question of them all. What happens when we die? That's all we have today for the debate as to whether or not there's an afterlife. Now, it's up to you what you believe. Do you think the afterlife is real? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.